Hello there again. Here I am, taking a stroll in the night, wondering, what do people really think about this Oscar Pistorius trial? A trial to determine whether or not a man who is guilty of murder really is guilty of murder. And a trial where the English translators need somebody to translate whatever it is they were translating. Because at one point I remember one of the translators making the whole trial sound like a sci-fi movie. I think it was the detective testifying, saying in Afrikaans, "Soos wat ek deur die ingangsportaal gegaan het." And the translator said, "As I entered through the portal." I mean, if you were someone who only understood the English part, what would you think? I mean, he said the detective went through a portal, when in other words he crossed over to another dimension where this alien waited for him to greet him, saying, "Hello, detective from Earth. This is the crime scene. Please feel free to stroll." And I remember one of the other translators who spoke just like Cousin It from the Addams Family. She was the most annoying of them all. Sorry I have to put it so out loud. And the witnesses who were brought in to testify and give evidence. For instance, the ones that the state brought in, who lived the farthest away from Oscar's house, apparently heard everything that went on that night, or at least they think they did. But it makes you wonder, living that far away, didn't they perhaps maybe hear the neighbor's TV that was on too loud? That the screaming came from a naughty movie they were watching? Or the gunfire came from one of the Rambo movies another neighbor was watching? I mean, how can you hear something from that distance, from inside a house, far away? I mean, what does that say? Maybe that houses further away from the actual crime scene have super thin walls. Or the people that live in those houses have excellent hearing aids. And one of the case's most outstanding features, Prosecutor Harry Nell, when he took Oscar Pistorius on with his cross-examination, going at him, flashing a photo of the victim's head. Now, earlier on in the case, they said they wouldn't show crime scene photos in order to preserve the victim's dignity. Yet here he comes, flashes a photo, leaving the onlookers with an image in their heads they might not soon get rid of. And so much for her dignity. Thanks, Harry. And then he proceeds to hammer Oscar, saying that he was convinced they had an argument. But did they? And what exactly convinced him they had an argument? It's not like he had evidence. But if he did, then it would have been a good idea to present it to the court. That way they might have gotten the premeditated charge they were aiming for. But of course, Oscar himself was a very poor witness in his own defense. He was obviously a man who sounded like he didn't know if he was coming or going. And yet Harry Nell sounded like someone who didn't know if he wanted Oscar to come or go. It sounded more like a back-and-forth argument as to what really happened. More like Oscar saying, "Intruder." Harry Nell says, "No, that is not what happened." That's really all it was. Not really an attempt to establish if there really was an argument. Just saying, "No, there was an argument. We know there was." And the one witness who stands out above all, Mr. Roger Dixon, the man who testifies as a ballistics expert, a audio expert, and so on and so forth, and yet he later reveals that he cannot really testify in those fields because he is just a geologist. He's not qualified in any of the other fields. Now, of course, you could feel the awkwardness settling in when finding that out. It could have been worse. What if he was to reveal that he was really a gynecologist? How would that turn out? I mean, how would he then define the difference between a blank and a bullet? I especially like the part where he did the audio test, where they played the tape. The first sound was the cricket bat, the second sound was the gunshot. Yet he reveals that both were made with the cricket bat, and he confirms, yes, it sounds the same, because they both were made by the cricket bat. Of course they would sound the same. Duh. And yet, with the trial now at an end, of course the prosecutors will now appeal the verdict or the sentence. And yet, it doesn't really matter how things turn out anyway. There is no real victory because no matter how you look at it, a family suffered a loss. And that is basically that. So, my friends, I will leave you now. Of course, everybody is entitled to their own opinion about the whole thing, as am I. For now, I say goodbye and hope to see you soon again. Good night, my friends.